and I'll get the video, let it make sure it doesn't do what it did last time. Hopefully.
You're good. Whatever.
Today's my Lulu dog's gotcha day.
Oh, yeah, gotcha, Dave.
I got her 4 years ago today.
Oh.
Her gotcha day.
All right, I think we're good.
It's calling us our dog's birthday.
Roscoe's gotcha day. I actually know when her birthday is because the person I got her from knew, but I have no idea what Roscoe's birthday is. So his birthday is on his gotcha day, which is in August. It's August, yeah, both dogs were on the same day, July 16th and August 16th, just that way you're apart. All right, Ben, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear.
Okay.
I think we're good.
Are we ready then? All right, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting of the Alice King Community School to order at 5:45 p.m. And I can confirm that there is a quorum. And I will, we need to make some changes to the agenda, so I'd like to discuss the proposed changes before we do a motion. And second, so that we can do a motion that's as, changed. Because of Ben's limited time this evening, I would like to move the new business item A to before any of the council committee reports, so that Ben can advise us what he needs to. And I think that's and the other change we needed to do was on the policy committee. We are not going to do a first reading of the audio or video recording prohibition exceptions policy. Christy and I need to meet with council again and figure out some nuances about what issues we're trying to address before we bring that back to you. So with those two changes.
Monica, so my report's a little on the longer side tonight, so if you wanna bump in before me, that would be fine.
Perfect, then let's move also Christie's head administrator report after the new business A, after Ben goes for foundation, and we can do equity after Ben goes too. We'll just do both of his in the same. If we have it, do we have an equity report tonight? We don't, okay, good, so then we can just move new business A to right after reports from invited guests. And we'll move Christie's report to after where we've moved new business A to. And we're not talking about B little two in council committee reports. So with those changes, are there any other changes? All right, I will make a motion to approve the agenda as reorganized for amendments.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Ben, if you'll just hang with us for a second, let us do the minutes real fast, and then you'll be, you can. I don't have any comments, and we don't have any public. Right, well, no, and there was no public in my inbox. All right, any corrections, additions, or deletions to the minutes from the June 18th regular meeting? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
All right, I made a motion, Dave seconded, we're good. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None, motion carries. We don't have any public comments. If there's comments from council members, we can do those, after Ben goes, so. Ben, thank you for joining us this evening. If you'd like to give us any foundation report and then talk to us about your discussion item, on the foundation change to 501(c)(3) status.
Okay, good evening, governing council. If I'm not sure if everyone in the room has met me, I'm Ben Martinez. I'm the foundation treasurer. Just to provide a little update, I am currently working on closing our books as of June 30th, getting our final adjusting entries in. It's timely because we were at the audit insurance conference meeting just a bit ago, so the foundation should be on track to get everything closed and filed timely with our auditors, just as we usually do. We haven't really had any significant activity to report in the last couple months. We successfully did all the transfers that we discussed last meeting regarding the repair and replacement fund. So all of those have taken place with our bond trustees. So that's probably the biggest update, activity wise. The reason I came to discuss our 501(c)(3) status tonight has to do with our tax return. We do file as a nonprofit. We file a 990 with the IRS, and what it appears, because as part of our bond, we have a repair and replacement reserve fund, and we have a bond reserve payment fund, which is basically kind of a single payment in case for some reason, as part of the whole bond package, they have us basically kind of hold a payment in reserve. Well, those amounts are making interest right now, and that's the crux of our problem. Is those deposits or reserves are basically making more interest than we make in donations. And so there is a test with the IRS where you have to have, in order to be a 501(c)(3) public charity, you have to have like 33% of your support has to come from like public donations versus interest income. Taking out other things like the rent we pay for the lease, it's just really talking about kind of donations versus interest income. And right now we're on the cusp of not meeting that in the next tax year. So our tax accountants have recommended that we look at potentially modifying our bylaws to become what they call a type 1 supporting organization for the charter school. Currently we're just a 501(c)(3) public charity supporting the charter school. What a type 1 entity does is it really ties our support more directly to the governing or to the school by giving the governing council basically the ability to appoint a majority of our board. So it kind of tightens up that relationship. It gives the governing board basically a more control over who may be on the foundation board. And it also would require changes in our bylaws that would restrict us to only supporting the school. As our charity currently is written as kind of an open public charity, we could technically support other causes if we chose to. We don't, of course, because we were built to support the school, but this would be more of like a formal bylaws restriction to just supporting the Alice King Community School. What the activity this would entail really does happen mainly on the foundation side with amending our bylaws. The main reason I'm bringing it to the governing council is just to see if, the governing council would be willing to kind of take on that step of, approving the foundation board. It could be a majority, it could be the whole board. It would just, the requirement, my understanding right now is that it would need to be at least a majority of our board, but it could be the full board. There wouldn't be any changes to like the school's bylaws or the governing council. I don't know if the governing council has like separate bylaws. There'd be no changes in that respect, and there wouldn't be really any changes when it comes to the charter renewal. It would just be changes to the foundation bylaws that kind of cement our relationship as that type 1 supporting organization.
Will you have taxes on the interest then and as a new entity?
Currently, no, and I think as a type 1 supporting entity, it would not be, there wouldn't be any taxes paid on that. All of that kind of gets folded in to pay for the bonds. So as we earn more interest, sometimes I think they do an annual reevaluation and they kind of credit some of the payments on the bonds out of that interest. And so it kind of can lower the rent or the payments that the school makes to us when every month Bank of Oklahoma tells us what the required payment would be. So sometimes that extra accrued interest kind of gets folded into the overall payments. So there's no tax paid on it currently. It's just meeting that test. One other item that just occurred today, talking to the audit partner for Clifton Larson Allen or CLA at the entrance conference. He recommended maybe touching base with himself and one of their tax accountants for maybe 15 minutes to look at the situation and see if there's a different potential solution than our current tax accountants are presenting. He said they could do that to kind of give us some thoughts on it as well, just to see, because I'd asked them if making this change would impact us audit wise, which they said it probably shouldn't, but he did say they would help give us like a second opinion on that, because potentially for the foundation, what we would have to do to make these changes, we'd probably want to work through with a legal counsel to help us make sure that we meet the requirements for the IRS. So we would be looking for, we've been referred to an attorney who kind of gave me a bird's eye view of what this would be. But before truly engaging in that, I wanted to approach the governing council, and now I want to also talk to the auditors and see if, if them looking at this, see if they come up with the same solution, or maybe present other potential solutions for meeting this public support test.
Thank you for that, Ben. I have, my first question is on timing. What is your
Mhm.
time frame to try to get all of this accomplished? Because I too think that Christy and I need to do some due diligence with our council just to make sure. I mean, I know, like, for example, there are other charter schools who have a dedicated foundation that is just their school foundation, which is different than ours in terms of how they're set up. They're probably type 1s, but I want to make sure, because I've always had an understanding, and it could be an incorrect understanding, that we had to have some objective distance between the foundation and the charter school. And so I too would just like to do our diligence and check with the board's council on this whole concept. So what is your time frame of wanting to hire your guys' lawyer to move forward and get this accomplished so that we can try to be in tandem with you?
Our time frame would probably look to be within fiscal year 26. So we're right at the beginning of fiscal year 26. We would want to probably have any documents filed by June of next year in order to have made those bylaw changes by June 30th. So we have months,
Okay.
months, almost a full year to deal with this. Because we would want to file if this all does go through, we'd want to file it with the tax return that for the fiscal year ending June 26.
Yeah.
So, which would be filed afterward, but we'd want to have the changes done before we file that return. So,
And
So
just
kind
for
of-
my, I'll open it up to other council members. I don't have any objection to proceeding if that's the way that all of our council tell us we need to. And that we're, and that the auditors bless it or give you another path or another idea, but we want the foundation to remain, we want it to remain strong and, give you guys what you need to support us for our position. I mean, that's my position. I've got lots of heads nodding, so I think that we all kind of feel the same way on that. So I'd like to just do some of our diligence while you're doing your diligence, but I don't think we're opposed to trying to figure out which direction you guys need to go.
And my understanding is the kind of the penalty, if of failing that test is that you're classified by the IRS as what's called a private foundation, which there's restrictions on the tax deductibility to private foundations versus like public charities. I, not being a tax accountant, being an auditor, I can't speak with perfection to what the difference is, but I do think it's like there's a limitation, I believe, like maybe only 50% of donations to private foundations or only certain percent of donations to private foundations can be tax deductible, whereas public charities are generally more deductible.
Yeah, I believe that is correct, Ben, and I believe that the getting your 501c3 status from the IRS changed and or revoked is not anything that any of us want to have happen.
Right. Right. Exactly.
And those are
Exactly.
penalties for when you don't meet the test.
Yeah.
So, if you want to keep in touch with Christy and I, we'll try and get something, in the next, few weeks. My schedule's a little crazy, but try to get Sue on this and I want to look at a couple things and then we could, maybe try to talk about it again in the September meeting and that would give you a little bit of time to see what you find out as well. And then we can try and make a path forward to get you what you need.
That sounds great. I would appreciate that.
Is that okay with everyone else since I'm just saying things?
So you're gonna work with Ben and Christie to kind of collect data.
I'll work with Ben and Christy and our lawyer, Sue Fox, about this, and
then
make
before
sure
we
that,
make a decision, you guys would kind of present that case to.
yeah, we'll have another discussion about it and that, these are what we found out, these are the concerns, this is, how we want to proceed, or, we got a green light and this is how we want to proceed. And then we would probably need to vote on whatever that looks like, but I'm not certain how we do that either, which is why I want to talk to our lawyer.
Marcos, is it okay if I ask a question?
Yes.
Ben, when we talked about this during the foundation meeting, you shared some information about how far away we are from that mark of that 33% direct support. Is that something you could talk to the board about, just so that they kind of have perspective on that?
Yeah, do you want me to share that that file? I can share that on the screen if that works. Let's see. Remember where I put it. Oh, okay. Oh, I have to send a request to be able to share.
Got it.
You're in.
Okay. So I'll try to make this bigger if I need to. So it is a 5-year rolling. Let's see, are you seeing an Excel sheet there?
Yes.
Okay, so this is it's a rolling 5-year calculation where you look at what they consider your public support compared to your interest. And tax years are weird because they label tax years by the year it starts. It's the opposite of our fiscal year. So when we say like fiscal year 25, we're talking the year ending in 25. When they say tax year 23, they're talking the tax year that starts in 23, which is our fiscal year 24. So this is this top one here is the calculation that was for our our fiscal year 24 tax return, or what they call tax year 23. And it looks back over the last 5 years, your interest versus your public support. And we were at 43% of our support was public support. And they did a calculation when they brought this up, kind of saying, okay, well, if tax year 2019 falls off and our public support, this was public support to date in tax year 24, fiscal 25. If our interest stayed the same, we'd be below this 33% mark starting next year. Now, that doesn't mean instant revocation, because when you do your tax return, it looks 2 years back. So it says, okay, did you make your 33% this year? If no, did you make it last year? If yes, you're good. And so you kind of have some leeway. But the problem is our interest here is growing year after year because of kind of the interest rate we're getting on those like our reserves. And so really it would take a pretty large amount, increase in kind of public support to get this 5-year amount up to meet that 33%. It would be a pretty large, because every year we're probably going to start seeing interest like this, at least until, because what they invest in that reserve fund is usually like treasuries or government bonds, things that are very safe, but have kind of a set interest rate. So that's why, when the Fed really raised the rates in 22, that's why the amounts really jumped there. And so, it would take a pretty large amount to kind of turn the trend to where our donations were higher than our interest.
Just write him a check for $10,000.
Well,
I mean,
we could put out a call for some donations at the beginning of the school year.
The foundation's gonna fall apart.
Yeah.
Don't they?
Yeah, let's not say that.
I mean, it would be a good, call, but I guess I'm just sort of thinking, in 2 to 3 years, all 5 of these years are going to be 33,000, 30 some thousand. And so we're going to, have really high interest in public support. Like we'd really have to, it'd be a lot more than the foundation's really done, being a group of volunteers that we are, to kind of meet that. So that's where some of this is stemming from, is that calculation. And just, that's why this year we're kind of safe for it, because we have last year as a backup being the year that we met the test. So getting everything done by the end of this year would help ensure that in the year after that we'd be covered.
Was there 0 in 2020?
Because it was the pandemic.
Yeah,
so-
interest.
We had no activities, we had no fundraising.
No, the interest.
Oh, the interest?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question.
It was,
Why? 'Cause everything went to crap. They waived it. Yeah.
it really, there wasn't a lot of interest in that year. With interest rates going down to 0, even that reserve wasn't making a lot of interest. I might go back and double check that year, because
Oh, that's
I
my
feel
point.
like we might have had something, but maybe not 0.
Yeah.
$5 probably, which is why you didn't put it in. If we had 151 in 2021.
That's pretty incredible increase in interest. So in 5 years, you'd have to offset like $150,000 with 33% or something.
Yeah. Let me see what that would be. You'd need like 50,000 spread over 5 years, so 10 or more a year.
See, it was working, so that's all we gotta do, right? He was right. Yeah, right.
See, our big year here falls off, because I think that was beginning of 2020. I think we had some fundraisers before the pandemic hit. We had think we had a community night or two, and we had a Valentine's dance, and then the world shut down.
Mhm. Yeah, March 13th,
Yeah,
2020.
2 weeks to flatten the curve, right?
That was the night she said the kids weren't going back to school again.
You like it?
It's a Thursday night. Okay, Ben, anything else? Any other questions from council or administration? All right, well, thank you, Ben, for your time and all your efforts on behalf of Foundation and for your presentation this evening, and we'll get our ducks in a row and see what we learn and see what you learn.
All right, thank you very much. I apologize for being running a little late. Got caught in traffic coming back from AKCS.
No problem. Thank you for being at the audit meeting with us as well.
Okay, have a good one.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right, what is next? Next is Miss Laura. I'm assuming that you're going to pitch it for Miss Veronica this evening on finance, facilities, and human resources.
Yeah.
You don't have anything? Oh, we're skipping Chrissy. Okay, Chrissy, Miss Chrissy. See, this is why. Thank you for reminding me. Miss Chrissy, head administrator's report, but we don't have anything anyway.
All right,
Does?
so,
No, I'm fine.
Oh.
the table up here, I want to start with talking about student enrollment. What you're looking at right now, the first column represents the goal that I have for the school in terms of our overall, I would love for us to be at 425 students. When we did our budget, the state set our budget at our 8120 day average from last year, which put us at 376.5. Laura's double checking that number for me. Our actual enrollment as of today is 361. So we are still under, even what the state came in with their 8120 day average. Fabian, if you'll scroll up a little bit, I have a little snippet there, a paragraph that I pulled from the most recent LESC report. That's the Legislative Education Study Committee. They put out a report on July 7th that really looks at student enrollment. So I'm just going to give you a minute to, can you guys see that, or do you want me to read it out loud?
I can read it. Well, I know it, I mean, I know that in my children's friend groups, that is absolutely true. They're either doing homeschool or they're doing online school. They're not going back into traditional buildings.
Exactly. And so we're still seeing that as a pattern here at Alice King. We, in terms of what are we doing about it, I mean, we do have some marketing that we continue to do over the last 5 years. I think making improvements to the exterior of the building is also important, and especially in terms of security. I don't know if you noticed when you came in tonight, though, you had to ring a bell. That's a new thing, so that we've got the building completely secured. The perimeter of the building will also be completely secured. I think those are really big selling points now. We are also thinking and planning about instead of having really low class sizes like we've been able to really enjoy the last few years, like 16, 17 kids in a class. I am having to think a little more critically about how many staff can we truly afford so that we can make sure that we're planning accordingly for the numbers. So this year, what we are looking at as of today, which could shift, right? If we get more kids in the door, we're going to take them, which means we have to shift what classrooms could potentially look like. But as of today, I'm planning for 3 kinder first grade classrooms, which is a change because last year we had 4 and the year before we had 5. So that K1 pool is starting to continue, it's continuing to decrease. As of 3 K1 classrooms, we will have a first and second grade multi-age classroom this year. we will have 3 second and third grade classrooms, which is a decrease from 5 from last year. We will continue to have 5 fourth and fifth grade classrooms, which is what we've had since we've been in this building. And we are decreasing from 6 middle school classrooms down to 5. That is looking at class sizes from kinder through 8th grade of anywhere between 20 to 23 students in a class. But every classroom still has a full-time EA. So that's kind of just I want to make sure that I'm being a little more conservative. I would rather start out conservative now than hire an extra teacher in hopes that the kids come through the door, and then if they don't, have to cut somebody.
What do you usually see? Do you usually see that tick from your July as you move into the school year? Or is it usually
What we usually see, Dominic, is that I usually anticipate that we're gonna see a decrease of about 5% by the time the first day of school rolls around. People register and then they don't show up.
Right.
So I anticipate that. So, and then we will see more kids come because then they start their other schools, they're unhappy, then they make a shift, and that's pretty typical as well. One typically balances out the other, so I anticipate we're probably gonna maintain at about 360. Of course.
This is nationwide too. This is an issue that they're seeing. I went to a conference with multiple states and representatives, and they're also seeing similar issues at the younger grade levels. It's also declining birth rates that are affecting it, and they're also seeing people move from urban areas to tier 3 suburban areas, which are actually 3 layers out. So just a few things nationally to keep in mind happening across the board.
And like I said, you know, just with my kids' friends group, out of Mariella's 10 probably closest friends, only 4 of them are in school. The rest of them are either on an online program or homeschool. And then James is a bunch of the kids now going into high school because he starts high school this year. A bunch of the kids that he met last year are going not to high school, they're going to online high school in their house. Or homeschool. That they're just, and I mean, and it's the trend even into college, you guys. I mean, I had to fight to get Mariella live on campus classes at her new university because the first offerings were a mix of in-person on campus classes and online, even though you're living on campus. So that's where we're headed. I don't know how to fix it. But I applaud you, Miss Christie, for thinking ahead, and Laura, you know, all of the administration, and looking at it very conservatively and very carefully about which direction. And, you know, as much as our class sizes have increased a little bit, I still think that's a better approach given the environment we're in than hiring and trying to keep our class sizes where we've always had them and then having to lay off because we can't make budget.
Exactly. Yeah, and so Fabian, if you want to scroll to the next section, because it ties in with all of this, it has to do with staffing for this school year. So I do have the list of people who are not returning for the 25-26 school year. We have filled all of the positions. The one position, the positions that we've determined that it makes sense to fill, based on enrollment right now. The one position that I'm not filling right now because I want to see what happens after the start of the school year with numbers is the counselor/social worker. We still have one. We have a full-time one. We've had 2 in the past, and 2 was ideal, and what we truly would like to have. That will be our, if the numbers come in, that's probably the next position we're going to be looking at, unless class sizes become very large.
And I'm going to share something about, I know a person who is a social worker in high schools in APS, and she did not get a contract renewal this year. So that is where all of the APS schools are cutting people, is in the social work department.
Yeah, which is really, really unfortunate because there's, you know, I have to say that as a school, you know, we as a charter school, we bring in a lot of students with various backgrounds, and I think having people who are able to respond and who are trained to respond in different ways is really, really critical. So, but in looking at the numbers and the money, we want to make sure we're not in a position where we're gonna have to cut people later. And I feel like a social worker / counselor, if the numbers support it and if the money supports it, then we have an easier position to bring in later on than a teacher.
Especially with the amount of APS social worker counselors that are not getting renewed this year.
Yeah, good to know.
They're looking for jobs.
Yeah.
How many of these do you have to fill versus how many are you gonna keep reduced to, to top, use your workforce plan that you just talked about?
Right now, everything's filled.
Except for the
Everything's
social
filled.
worker. That's the one she hasn't replaced.
Yeah, so we don't have, we're not starting the year with any open positions. Like I've hired for every position.
Okay, and so you had to backfill all of these positions that were.
No, some of them happened just naturally. And so, and that's what we've been very, very fortunate the last several years where it's just kind of worked out through natural attrition. That, where we've been able to kind of make things work. For example, we just talked about the middle school. We are going from 6 middle school teachers down to 5, but I didn't have to cut anybody because one of them was actually very interested in moving to a different teaching type position.
Gotcha,
Yeah, so we did some shuffling.
I see, okay.
All right, any other questions
Questions, discussion on that?
on that topic? No.
All right, so the next fun piece is the federal funding. I know there's a lot of talk about this in the news. I did get a letter, I think it towards the end of last week, from Secretary Padilla. She's the education secretary for the state. And and she talked about these federal funding delays for these particular federal grants. And so I've listed out the grants there, and I wanted to talk about what is the impact to Alice King for those grants. The biggest one that I see, and Rhonda and Laura, you please chime in because you are way more knowledgeable about this than I am. I see that the one that really impacts us, that could potentially impact us the most, is Title II. Because Title II, we typically receive about $25,000. We use that money to pay for training, stipends, for certified staff to be able to take on extra responsibilities to help out in different ways, and that's how we pay them for that. So that would be a pretty significant impact for us if that money doesn't come in. The other title monies, I don't think truly impact us. Title III has always been very, very insignificant for us, like $600. And we've already been told by AKCS that we wouldn't be receiving that anyway because they're going to allocate it in different ways for charter schools this year. We don't get Title I Part C. We don't get Title IV. So there's really not a lot of impact for Alice King here, which is good news. So I just wanted to just talk about that because I know that that's been something that's been coming up in the news. So I just wanted to let you know what that looks like for the school.
Thank you.
So Title II, all of these aren't coming from the Fed, so they're not getting to the states, or the state has them, we're told.
No, the federal government has not awarded the states this money. They're holding about $7 billion right now across all the states for these particular grants. Right now, they're calling it a delay, but there's a lot of concern for a lot of schools. I mean, it's schools that may be impacted more significantly than we are. Districts, I think APS is going to be significantly impacted if they don't receive those grants awards.
So the state used to allocate through state funding the professional development. The Title II came on later, and it always was, I wish the state would actually go back to doing that because it wasn't as restrictive as you have here. Like when you're trying to do the Title II, we're trying to spend it really fast at the end of the year. You have to, having to make sure you have the sign-in sheets, agendas, everything else. So maybe they'll go back to making that part of their allocation, and it used to be more. And then they did away with it when we started getting the Title II allocated to us.
Yeah, well, hopefully they will go back to that. That would be good. Yeah. Any other questions or discussion?
Well, when it says supporting effective instruction, what exactly does that mean?
That could be any kind of it's usually around teacher and principal retainment and recruitment. So it could be any way that you're supporting the teachers or principals towards I don't know,
Professional development.
It's a goal we were trying to get to, and it's usually stipend made, so like the teachers and administrators would put in their time, and we could award them a stipend for that time and effort towards it.
Okay.
It would be for duties beyond their
Yeah.
typical job responsibilities.
Yeah.
For things like, being a part of the leadership team.
Yes.
Or, being a grade level chair, taking on something above and beyond your regular classroom.
So you get paid for those hours?
Yeah, or a set amount.
Yeah, the stipend.
Have they been approving their stipends through Title II?
They did.
Mhm. And that's what the letter said, even though some things have been approved, doesn't necessarily mean.
Yeah, next
You're
year,
gonna-
or this year, they might reject it.
Right, exactly. Did you get that letter, Rhonda? I can forward it to you
I
if
don't
you
know,
want.
I'm not getting, she's telling me about a lot of things she's getting. I think they think I'm not working for charter school.
Or if you want to.
Yeah, they gave it to administrators, they didn't send it directly to us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But no, I'll forward it to you.
Okay, all right, let's talk about building and playground improvements, because that's been a lot of fun. It's actually been a lot of fun. My head is swimming because it's been very, very overwhelming. Especially when the contractors have been here since 6 in the morning and I roll in at like 7:45. And they're like, and we need this and we need that, and I'm like, okay. hold on. So, yeah, we have a lot happening, as you guys can see when you pull again. The old turf on both fields has been completely removed. And that is, they are expecting to install that next week, possibly the beginning of the following week. Or the hope is that it's ready for when kids come here. We have a lot of cement. Oh my gosh, they spent 3 days pouring cement. So we had a lot of area, a lot of walkways, lots and lots of area where there was concrete. So all of that's been poured. In fact, you'll probably see people here tonight when you leave, because they're gonna come do their soft markings to mark the concrete, and they have a lot going on. The windows are currently being prepped for to be resealed and painted. And we're gonna go with an Alice King green on the window trims, give it a little school spirit.
Yay.
And I think it'll look nice instead of the peeling teal color that was there. All the chain link fences and gates have been removed. I have been assured that we will have fences in those areas by the first day of school, so that we can keep kids on the playground. So there's a lot happening. I mean, there's so much that they haven't even started yet. Those are just the pieces that have already started in the short amount of time that they've been working on it. We were able to have them start in August. I'm sorry, not August, in June. So that we have construction in progress. Rhonda and I did reach out to the auditors just for a little guidance on that, so that we could make sure that we were doing everything that we needed to do, so that we could make sure that we were effectively using carryover funds, and that we weren't gonna get into a position where it wasn't considered construction in progress. So I feel pretty confident that all of that should go through. Rhonda, do you have any comments about that conversation or anything you want to share?
No, I think you got it all done timely. We just needed to make sure the contract was in place and that they actually started the work right before June 30th. And they did, yeah.
Yep. So, building security, I talked about the new lock system on the front door, so the front doors will remain locked at all times. Staff will have a key card that they can use to access, the front entry, just like they have on all the other doors. We've always had key card access on all the other doors, but never on the front door. So I got that set up with the same key card system, which is really nice instead of having to run multiple systems. And, visitors will push a button, camera pops on on a monitor in the front office, where whoever responds can talk to the person with the camera and microphone, and then unlock the doors remotely and let them in. So I think that'll be really nice. And academic progress data. So thinking I sent you a separate document for that.
So Not this one.
That's it.
Okay.
So this has the entire year now. So now keep in mind, we're only talking short cycle assessment data. So this is iStation and iReady. The iStation is the short cycle assessment that is required by PED. iReady is the short cycle assessment that we choose to use. So we are required to have some form of short cycle assessment that we get from grades 3 through 8, we get to choose what that is. So what you see is the beginning of year, our middle of year goal that we created through our 90-day plan, our middle of year actual, and then our end of year goal, and then our end of year actual. So you can see the growth or not as much growth in some grade levels. First grade is one of those grade levels that I've been watching for a couple of years now and trying to really figure out why we're seeing a regression from beginning of year to end of year.
It's happened for like 4 years in a row.
Yeah, and I'm trying to figure out why, because when I go and look at individual student scores, the kids are making growth. So I'm not sure where the discrepancy is. I'm not sure if it's in the way iStation, if there's like a change in like their cutoff scores or something that shifts from beginning of year to end of year. I do know that there are new concepts that are tested starting in the middle of first grade. And that could also be a factor. And so that is something as a leadership team that we are going to really be looking at the beginning of this year, because if it is anything to do with instruction, we want to make sure that we're really looking at that and analyzing it and getting it addressed sooner so that we don't continue to see this trend for this current year.
So did I hear you say that the test isn't the same? Is that what you just said?
So in first grade, the iStation is the same, but what they do is they introduce new reading areas. I think it's spelling and maybe text fluency. I'm not sure exactly which ones, but there's new things that come into play around the middle of first grade that the kids have never had to be tested on before. So they're not tested on at the beginning of the year, which is probably why we see higher scores. Then they introduce these new reading components that they're tested on. And I'm wondering if that's why we're seeing a dip at the end of the year.
I guess I had thought that the tests were the same all 3 times, and it was just, what is, are they proficient to get through first grade? But you're saying, is that the only one that's got additional information?
I believe so, and it's something that I want to really dig into. It is, and I'm very concerned about it because it is a trend that we've seen for a few years now.
But that same group of students don't do it again in second grade.
Right.
Because we're watching them go through.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you mean they don't?
They don't digress. They
They
don't
don't
digress.
digress.
First grade is the only one where beginning of year is higher, the proficiency percentage is higher in the beginning of the year than the end of the year.
Right,
You look at every single one of them, the rest of them make progress
from the beginning.
from the
Yeah.
beginning to the end.
Yeah.
And so the second graders now were first graders last year, where it happened to them too. And but this year didn't happen.
But in second grade, you also have the middle of the year and then drop, right? Oh, no, that's goal.
No.
That's goal. Yeah, middle of the year.
Or it dropped from 28
Yeah.
to
Not bad.
28 to 27, but it's still higher than the beginning of the year.
Right.
Right, and then Fabian, if the next chart this is our subgroup data. This doesn't include the goals, it's just strictly beginning of year, middle of year, end of year, and I don't know why our students with disabilities didn't come across on the end of the year. I have it, so I can tell that to you.
The English language learners.
Yeah.
Okay, so they are at, so they were at 0% at beginning of year and end of year and let's see. Wait a minute. Oh, sorry, that was in math I was thinking about. So at middle of year, they were at 0%.
The English language learners.
Yes,
They did better at the beginning of the year, then fell to 0, then went to.
yes.
I'm wondering, and this is only because I'm watching it happen in my life. I'm wondering if the testing environment is too challenging, not because we're not teaching, but because these gadgets that all children have read to them, they answer questions for them, they talk to them. They read things back to them. They know how to use this better than I do. And that, my daughter gives James a hard time all the time because he talks to text. He doesn't type. She's like, you need to be typing because you're gonna have to write and you're gonna go to high school and bossy bitches. But like it really sets her off that he uses the talk to type and it'll read to you or whatever.
Well,
And he is very proficient in reading and he learned how to read here.
yeah.
But it's the lazy part of it because it's so easy that I'm wondering if that's
Could be.
why
Yeah, I think there's a lot of factors.
more of a challenge to take the test than it was when we were taking the test.
We are still tracking better, so when I look at our iStation scores, which is kindergarten through second grade, we are still performing better than APS and the state by far. Our students with disabilities at the end of the year, we had a 37% proficiency rate. So they grew from 18% to 37%.
And almost every category grew from beginning of the year to end of the year. I mean, every category.
It's pretty exciting that the English language people got up to 25% from 0.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
Because once they become proficient, they fall out of that EL category, right?
They start to, yes, yeah, so their reading becomes proficient, and once their writing becomes proficient, they'll fall out of that category, exactly.
They jump on the economically disadvantaged,
Maybe.
22 to 42.
Yeah.
Yeah, darn near double.
What was the SWD end of year, Kristen?
37%.
So they went from under 20 to 37, so that's a pretty big jump too. I mean, it's trending in the right direction
That's
at
right.
every time.
Every category.
Yeah.
That's what's
That's
cool.
what's very
It's
cool.
not
It's
just
every
one or two
category. Yeah.
categories and everything gains.
Right, and here's
And then
the-
look on the iStation versus the iReady again.
This is math now. So this is now, iStation is still the assessment tool for math in grades K through 2 and iReady in grades 3 through 8. Look at the first graders in math compared to the first graders in reading.
Mhm.
Isn't that interesting?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Preschool.
Yeah, well, and I think to me, it makes me question about whether or not it's a test issue. Because if the first graders are making that amount of gain in math, why are we not seeing that in reading? But yet,
Everything like that.
Yeah.
right, but yet when I look at their individual test scores,
They're
they're making gains. So there's something really odd with that first grade reading test. Anyway, so for math, it looks that you can take a look at the data, and every grade made progress from beginning of year to end of year. Math is always, we're always performing lower in math than we are in reading. That's just been a trend. We see that across APS, we see that across the state. Math
For
proficiency
kindergarten
rates are
and
low.
first grade.
I know.
First grade knows 90%.
Yeah.
Could you go to the testing company? I'm the second one, first grade.
I know, me
If
too.
you go to the testing company, is it legal for us to provide them data of our students and say, this is our data, explain it?
I had a meeting with the rep on Friday because they're making some changes to iStation, and I'm actually gonna bring this up and ask her about it to see if they're seeing this with any other places at the first grade.
And say, this is what I'm saying, I look at them individually, and then I aggregate it, and it seems to flip what gives.
Who sets the goals? Is that?
We do that based on our 90-day plan. So what we do is we set 10% interval goals, because the idea is that if we are meeting our 10% goals at middle of year and end of year, then theoretically, we should make our goal for the state test.
Yeah, you just want, the end of year, one of the first, see the goal and settle.
And so the goal is simply, if you take a look at the beginning of your score, the goal is 10%. So we're looking at for 10% gain. So if for our 20% total increase is what we set the goal for. And then the last chart is again the subgroup data. The ELs on this one, they were 0% at beginning of year, 4% middle of year, and then 0%. So that is a subgroup that we're keeping a very close eye on and having conversations about what are we doing? What do we need to do?
Or is that group?
Say that
They
again?
really improved it, really.
Yes.
How big is that group?
The EL group, it's about 15 kids.
How come the kindergarten through second grade take a different test?
Because it's required through the state, they are required to take iStation and the iStation isn't really geared for middle school. And so we want to keep our 3rd through 8th grade on the same assessment. And we tried iStation for the upper elementary in the past and we didn't find it as useful.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have an explanation why our Native American students drop in proficiency?
Yeah, you're looking at a very, very small number of kiddos. And so if you have one kid score lower from one group from your period to the next, it shows a big
Yeah.
change one way or the other.
Assume that probably.
And I would say that's true for our Black students as well. That's all I have, unless anybody has any other questions or discussion.
I do not. Anybody else?
Thank you.
All right, we do not have finance, facilities, and human resources this evening, correct, Miss Laura?
Yep.
All right, Miss Pat, you are up.
I have no report on maybe professional development, no new classes or reports of new classes scheduled now yet for the CDs, but I'll pass them on as soon as I receive them. And quite often Christie receives them and sends them to me, so I eventually do get them, but not as quick as she does.
You haven't got new requirements for what we have to do yet either then?
Well, it's my
It's the
assumption that
same,
they're
5
gonna
hours.
stay
Okay.
the same.
Okay.
We were given that impression when it changed last year.
Right.
So.
They reduced last year, so they would reduce.
We're down to 0.
But everyone in here is the 5 hour now.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we get someone new, they're up to the higher number, but I'll just put out the plea again for anyone who knows someone who might be interested, and we've got some new parents coming in the next few weeks and months when they get settled in, and maybe someone will be interested. And so can we put something in the newsletter? Yeah, okay. That's a great way to.
Right? You're room for one parent now, or?
We have room for at least one parent.
I think we have.
I think we have 2, but I'm not certain, but I know we have at least one because I switched out of the parent position after Fabian was here.
We could stress in that announcement in the newsletter, that this is a great way to learn about the school and to have an input on a child's education.
All right, I do not believe you have a policy committee report because
No,
we have not met.
We've not met. Christie had sent me the audio and video recording permissions and exceptions, so we crossed that off. So
Yes.
we'll not be discussing that.
Let's talk about student electronic devices, if you can pull that one up, Fabian.
And we
I can,
postponed any action on that from last month.
not on this one. The one we postponed action on was the first one, the
Oh, I'm
audio,
sorry,
yeah.
audio.
This one is a new one. This one is a new one because there is a new law that was enacted during this legislative session called the Student Wireless Communication Law. And it's very short. I have looked at the statute, Aaron has looked at the statute. Sue, our attorney, prepared this based on our current, so you'll see red lines, based on our current electronic devices, but now the statute requires it wireless communication devices too, so we're adding that in. So essentially, students cannot bring or used during instructional hours unless one of the below applies. Now, there's exceptions, obviously, if a teacher authorizes it for educational purposes, an emergency, accessibility for students on IEPs, these exceptions come directly out of the statute. The two areas I think I would like to discuss and revise in this first portion is Aaron and I have looked at the statute and I can't find a definition of instructional hours. And as a basic matter of statutory construction law, I'm not being a lawyer, you can do more than a statute requires, but you cannot do less. So what Christy would like, and I agree with her, and Anna and Danielle would like, because of the issues surrounding this, and we have before and after care. I would like to change instructional hours to during school hours from when the school is open to closed. Because even though the majority of students leave, the instructional hours, I will tell you from various policies I received for this, at least the one I got today for James's new school. That one is a very different policy because it's high school, right? And so in the high schools, what they do is they take them at the beginning of class, they put them in a bucket, they have a thing on the wall or a bucket. Kids put them in the bucket during class, but then they pick them up after class so they can have them at lunch or before or after, but it's not a school sanctioned activity like we have for before and after care. So Christy and I would like to change instructional hours to during the hours in which the school is operating.
And Anna and Danielle, I know you help deal with this issue a lot, so if you have questions or thoughts, chime in.
What constitutes an emergency?
Well, this one says emergency, there's no definitions in this statute, none. Like,
Just
literally, like, these are almost the words out of the statute. There are no definitions. There's nothing that constitutes an emergency. I mean, I think that requires discretion of the teachers and the administration of what is an emergency.
Is it a social emergency or?
I know. Yeah. But so for the first reading, I'd like to change, during instructional hours to during the hours in which the school is operating. And then the same for number 5, during the hours when the school is operating as determined by the student's teacher. And we want to leave that in there because for before care and after care, if the staff who is working, if the student's got a homework project and they need to use their device to finish their homework, that they should have the discretion to do that, right? Because it's an exception. But we just don't want free for all phone usage during before and care or during school.
And just for perspective, we have always had a cell phone policy, for years and years and years and years. And it basically says if a parent feels that their child needs a cell phone or a smartwatch at school, then the devices should be in the opposition stored in the student's backpack or locker while they're at school. We don't allow kids to use them ever. Every once in a while, something will come up where it's written into an IEP. And it's a very, very rare occasion even that something like that would happen. Because we don't want to use a student's personal device for something like that. So it's very rare. And so all of our staff is trained to really keep an eye on cell phones. I think for us, this new law isn't going to be a massive shift. I think for schools that have always allowed cell phone use, it's going to be really hard. But for us, I don't see it as a major change in anything that we're doing.
To be fair, right now, the law doesn't say you have to prohibit something. The law just says you have to enact a policy that may prohibit the phone. So literally, if you wanted to, you could start allowing cell phones. But yeah, although, one thing that I don't think is done yet is it says the department shall issue guidelines, which tells me we're gonna see some NMAC on this as well.
There's gonna be regs, but I didn't find any regs today either.
But this thing's only been a law for 36 days.
Yeah.
so then we would not to anyways.
You to clarify the bus almost for the school.
Yes.
They are, because we don't allow self-funders on the bus either.
So here's to Erin's point, students are not permitted to, let's bring back bring or use. In the very first sentence.
And that's one.
Yeah, because I think further down it talks.
Yeah, because when
about-
you go down, we've got the you can't have it stuff still. So I think we need to make this. Bring or use.
They can't bring it to school.
Well, if you get further down,
That's been the rule forever. When Fabian goes down and I can,
the stuff that is underlined and in blue is the stuff that our attorney added, the text that is in black with no changes to it, that's what was existing. On our current policy.
yeah, so this part right here, cell phones and smartwatches. That has been our policy.
They're not allowed to bring cell phones to school, or if they're not allowed to, why do we need an audio visual policy for the recording devices they're not supposed to bring?
But that's a different policy, that's not this. That's why we're not talking about that tonight. That's why we're not talking about that tonight, because we need to deal with that and a whole bunch of other issues on that one.
Well, I guess the question is, if this policy supersedes that one, that's.
Well, there's gonna be a different discussion about that. That is not on the table tonight. And I guess we could, I mean, we're technically, we need to get this done by August. But, I mean, the one question I do have now, based on the conversation, and this is why it's always good to have multiple heads and attended, is it says we have to have a policy. Does it say we have to let them bring it? What is 22-117? Does it say we have, can we just prohibit it?
Oh, yeah, it says no later than August 1, 2025. Each school district charter school shall adopt and implement wireless communication device policy.
We already have one.
The department shall issue guidelines outlining the minimum requirements for a wireless communication device policy, including a policy that they prohibit a student from using wireless communication device during instructional hours. Authorize the teacher. So that's basically saying the department shall issue guidelines outlining the minimum requirements for that policy.
And we don't have that yet.
Now, let me see if
Because I'm halfway inclined to say we're in compliance because we already have a policy and it's the policy we have.
And the new language that's been put in there that's coming out of statute,
It says may.
no, but all these exceptions
Yeah,
and everything,
Yes,
that's.
says
that's
amendment.
straight out of statute.
It says may.
Yeah, no, and I think we might as well at least make our policy now compliant with the statute, and then we may have to revise it again if the regulations
Change it.
But yeah, I'll add anything to the statute.
So based on this conversation, I think I want to go back to Sue. Because I think we have a policy that complies with it and we can work on this for a little bit more time and not be in a rush.
And I think some of those things complicate it a little bit more than what you already.
Because we've always had a policy that you can't do it and there's no right to do it. The statute doesn't create a right to bring it, it's trying to limit it if you have it.
Well, I like revising our policy to at a minimum, call it a wireless communication.
Agree.
Can okay, so I'm going back to my email, because this conversation is like starting to ring some bells for me. So I'm going back into my email, and we did receive some guidance on June 4th from PET. That says, per Senate Bill 11, anti-distraction policy in schools attaches the Public Education Department guidance for wireless communication devices. We share this with you now, keeping in mind that LEAs are required to have a wireless communication device policy compliant with SB 11 before the statutory deadline of August 1st. And so.
And I think we already have one that complies because it says if the family deems it necessary, here's the stuff. We just need the wireless
Karen, I'll just
communication.
have this to you if you want to take a look at it, because you've got your head wrapped around. Statute there.
I mean, I think what we need to do now that we're having this conversation is start with if the family deems it necessary, and then to the extent we need to weave the exceptions in, we weave the exceptions in, but I think our starting point is where we've always come from, which is you can't bring it.
Yeah, and, you know, we run into little things here and there, but for the most part, it's the way we have it set up hasn't been an issue.
Well, and you know, I mean, from my perspective, having had a kid here, Damien, Fabian, you know, Aaron, could chime in, but if there was an actual emergency, I got a phone call from an adult. If there was a need for my child to have a parent, I got a phone call from an adult.
Yep.
My kid didn't need to call me.
Well, they couldn't, they don't have a cell phone.
Yeah, exactly. No, and he didn't have a cell phone until this past year in 8th grade. And even then, because of the way that the policy was there, it was free for all buckets. You turned it in at the gate in the morning. And then they distribute them as they walked out the gate in the afternoon. Well, I wasn't dealing with that. And so he never took his phone to school because we had a drop off and a pickup plan and he didn't need to communicate with anybody. And if he did, he could walk to the office and pick up the regular phone and call me.
And we did start.
Like we did when we were kids.
We did start having a little bit of an issue with some of our students trying to use their phones and, you know, they can be pretty sneaky. And so we did have a couple of classes make the decision to collect the devices and keep them in a locked bin for the duration of the day. And that actually made a huge difference.
So how do we want to proceed? Do we want to try to keep this at first reading or do we want to go back to Sue? Because I'm kind of inclined to go back to Sue, because if we can start from our original starting point and leave a couple things in, I would prefer to do that. I think you guys would too, unless you want to allow them to bring it and then try to police that more.
Or not.
But Danielle,
I agree.
I mean, it's K-8, they're in a safe and secure environment. They don't need a communication device. I'm sorry, I told
Not in
him.
the statute, but it sounds like PEDs can give guidance on. It says minimum requirements for the wireless communication device policy include providing annual and developmentally appropriate digital citizenship instruction for students in kindergarten through grade 12, with topics to include at a minimum the effects of screen time on children and the risks associated with social media. So if we're already doing it, it sounds like they say the wireless communication device policy shall include that we're gonna provide this kind of education. So if we're already doing it, we might as well put that into our policy. And I'm gonna be surprised that our lawyer didn't recommend us to do that. If the PD's already given that guidance, because this is probably gonna show up for the rest.
Mhm.
So at a minimum, I think we should add that to our first reading, is the sentence right here. You know,
Yeah.
in the policy as part of first reading.
Well, I think we have successfully first read and identified words we want to change and issues we want to change between now and the August meeting.
I've got a question for you
Mhm.
too. Is it the state writes the law and then PED interprets it with their lawyers and then we get regulations from PED? Is that how it flows down?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
legislature makes a statute, it gives authority to the agency to create regulations to
Okay.
enact the statute. And then they interpret it and create, and technically they're not supposed to conflict with the statute, but they can expand and give guidance.
And they can't exceed the authority given to them by the statute.
Yeah.
The clearest example of that is that lawsuit that just happened. The regulations tried to say you have to have 180 days, and the statute never said that. And so that's what the fight was all about, is that they tried to regulate beyond the legislation.
And PED can, they have to meet the statute, but they could go above and beyond if they wanted to.
They can operate within the requirements of the statute. They can't go too far above, or they face the kind of lawsuits that happen.
But as an individual person making a policy, if you're looking at a statute, you have to either do what it says or you can be more restrictive.
Right.
But you can't be less.
Not less restrictive.
So yeah, I mean, I think my recommendation, I like following the length of the statute, Cause we know a reg's gonna come out with this thing, this is what they don't want us to buy with the reg. So I'm okay with that, I think, if anything, we need more, I think at a minimum. To get ahead of the regs, we should, especially since we're already doing it.
Mm-hmm. No,
And the question is, can we just add that into the first reading now? So that we are in a position to approve in the second reading. By next,
well, we don't even have to add it, we don't have to add it tonight, we can add it for the second reading, because it's a problem. I mean, we can add whatever you want, if you wanna add. stuff.
well, yeah, that way we read at the first reading, that which we intended to, second reading, right?
We are allowed to also make changes though between the first and the second reading, so that what we're doing on the second reading is the intent of the council.
I think we tend to try not to make changes.
Agreed, we
Yeah.
tend to try not to, but I think this is one, let's get what we can get in it tonight, and then we gotta go back to the lawyer, because I still wanna know.
How
what we
far
can-
off are the rates?
Oh, they haven't even started, and the rulemaking process takes at least 6 months.
So why do we rush to, I mean, I think it'd be
Maybe
good
that's
to
the
review the
deadline.
language.
Well, my question for Sue is our policy as it sits right now compliant with the statute? And I
Well,
think it is.
that's what I sent her. I sent her our policy and I said, can you please review this and make sure it's in compliance with the statute? And this is what she said.
Yeah, but I don't know, the statute does not say we can't prohibit it. It says if we're gonna allow it, these are the exceptions you have to give. Right?
I see what you're saying, is we're so restrictive that
Mhm.
we've done, we've done the at a minimum
And then some.
and you clear from there.
So that's my
Which is
question.
accomplishing the goal of the statute, our policy accomplishes. the goal.
Exactly, and so that's why I'm wondering, to Dominic's point, is do we need to address this tonight, because we do have a policy in place that exists and would exist on August 1st.
Yep.
That appears on its face to me, not being a lawyer for the school, to comply with the statute.
Mhm. And then we can modify it more at our leisure.
Mhm.
To include this, yeah,
Yeah,
there's
the
no
right
reason
time.
to include this language.
But you don't have to comply with the statute, you have to comply with the rates.
No, both,
So you
they're
have to
both
comply
law,
with the statute before the regulations.
Yeah,
that's what they're
Yes.
requiring right now.
and that's what Marty is saying, is she thinks we're already in compliance with the statute,
That's what I thought too.
and I don't disagree.
I think we're in compliance, so I think we could do parts of this. Going forward, and particularly I liked adding that even before we get regs,
Yeah.
that we are already doing
Feed them to the
instructions.
regs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but my root question is, I feel like our policy as it exists, because we have carve outs. I mean, if you guys look at that red line, if you look at where we had our original policy. If a family deems it necessary for a person to bring a personal electronic wireless communication device to school, the device must be placed in opposition stored during instructional hours. And then we had, we're gonna say during the entire school day. Student may only use his or her cell phone. Watch, this is our current policy. We gotta take it to wireless eventually, but we still have one. During the school day in the presence of a staff member for an emergency or other appropriate reason. Misuse of cell phone will result in confiscation of device, discuss cell phone with it, not responsible for loss, damage, personal, blah, blah, blah. We put that disciplinary part up here, and then the wireless communication device statute defines it as portable electronic device capable of transmitting voice, data, text, including cellular phone, smartphone, watch, tablet, laptop, or gaming device, which is already what, if we say, it already says cell phone or smartwatch. And remember when we did that one, guys? We talked about making the list giant like this definition, and we decided not to, because there were so many opportunities for, we tried to limit it there too, when we did this. And so I think even with our carve outs right here in our current policy, we're in compliance. And that's what's bothering me, is that I feel like we don't need to rush to do this. If we're already in compliance, then we can actually, Pat and I meet and talk, I can talk to Sue, we can meet the policy committee and try to put this to what we want.
Yeah, no, I think it's compliance. And I think we bring that to her attention. We want this thing here too.
And then if she disagrees and we need to follow legal advice, then I wanna play with the word.
What, do you need me to do anything with that? Do you want me to?
We need to get a meeting
meeting
with her,
together?
yes. Please. If you'll ask her for some kinds of availability and then we can see if I can shove
And
something
you
in.
can forward that memo to her in advance. And I assume she's in it. Not gonna add that in the draft office.
Yeah. Because I don't know that we wanna have all these exceptions and allow them to just come on campus free for all, cause we've never done that before.
I don't think so. I think it opens a really big mess.
How about the medical device one? As somebody who has an exception at work
I feel like
for
it's,
my phone for
do
a medical device.
you feel like it's covered though under
Well-
appropriate reason?
Yeah, appropriate reason, I mean, for the moment it is, and I think especially the medical, let's see, go back up, what's that exception, sorry, baby.
Yeah, but your.
Emergency health care.
Reason still says it's gonna be in your backpack locked up
Yeah,
and not on your body. Mind.
The one thing that concerns me is a diabetic that had, where's one of these little things here? Their phone has to be on to
Right.
notify
And
them.
we have made an exception for a student like that
Mhm.
before, because we felt like it was covered under appropriate reason.
yeah, and so that's the piece that we may have to, you know, instead of appropriate reason, what we have in there now, you know, kind of. Put that medical necessity, we don't, accommodations for students with disability or IEP usually. With the exception, very rarely that I know of, Christy can confirm, we can't talk about individual students, but. The school provides the tools that the student needs. Unless they're extraordinarily specialized, and then of course they're gonna make an exception to accommodate, so. I think that,
Can we go down to what the current one looks like now? Okay, I can see the point, because a diabetic phone's not doing any good off in the backpack.
Right.
yeah, but appropriate reason gives administration the flexibility to have. For accommodation for medical reasons,
Okay, and
Whatever.
where's the appropriate reason?
it's right there.
Oh, and it's what she's.
For an emergency or other appropriate reason, in the presence of a staff member, if you've got your diabetic pump. You're gonna be in the presence of a staff member in your classroom, right? And there's gonna be accommodation made to have your phone where your pump needs to be.
And we can even tweak it.
Yeah, we can
Or
tweak
other medical.
Yeah.
Or for medical need, recognized medical needs.
Yeah. But like the IEP piece and the talk to text, you know, I mean, my experience personally with that has been, it has been provided with the devices that come with this. For the kids at school and as part of their plan.
If I was a kid, I'd say, I need my emotional support phone.
I'm sure they.
Well, we already got rid of emotional support animal, so they can't have an emotional support phone, because they can't have an emotional support animal. I mean, I think for today, all I'm trying to find again is that we are compliant as of August 1st. Not saying we're gonna put this in a box and walk away from it, I just don't wanna rush. What do you guys think?
No, I agree, some of that just made it.
It did.
Yeah.
Especially for where we started from, I mean, cause the policy that this board has always supported is, these kids don't need their devices unless they do.
Yeah.
And that's a decision that administration gets to make. Not us. Okay, so are we are just not gonna first read, is that where we've landed?
Yes.
Okay,
We'll go back to council.
we're gonna go back. Yep, we're going back to student for both of these. Okay. All right, guys, so that was a good discussion. Thank you all very much. Fabian, do you have anything on strategic planning this evening?
Only thing for the strategic planning committee is that we are gonna have a meeting next week. So we'll look at mission vision. We have an action on that, as well as look at commencing with assurance activities. Is to me, that means like making sure that we're tracking progress on all the milestones and goals, basic stuff that the council has done in the past. So we'll meet next week and get moving.
Thank you very much. Mr. Dave, I assume that you and Dominic have not yet had a committee meeting based on what the presented to us tonight. You do have a report? Okay, report away.
So, every time Christie shows her report that she just showed us at the first beginning of the year, all it was is a data point. And it always gave me frustration, like, okay, what do I do with 40%? Is that good or bad? Or so we went through and she sent the last 5 years worth of data. The first year was COVID, and I decided to throw that out as
Decision. That was a good decision.
So what we took is, this chart shows improvement, the blue chart part shows improvement from the beginning of year to middle of year. And then the red or orange or whatever, that orange shows the improvement that goes from middle of year till end of year. So kindergartners in math over the last 4 years have improved 46% from that first data point to where they've gone at the end of the year. So if Christie were to put those two numbers like in a little table on the bottom, it gives us one additional data point or two additional data points that may tell us, okay, they only are at 20%, but they're gonna go up. Historically, they go up 50%, so that's still pretty darn good. And so we have this data by grade for the last 4 years that show the improvement from beginning of year to end of year.
Okay, so the blue shows from the beginning to the middle, and then the orange from the middle to the end.
Right, and so the blue and orange combined is beginning to end
And to end over 4 years
on average.
on average. Okay, so on average, I just want to make sure I understand what you're telling. On average, let's do the kindergarten, and let's just call it 50, so it works in my brain. Are we saying that on average, they increase 50% in proficiency from the very first test of year 1 to the very last test of year 4?
No,
No, okay.
improve by 45% or whatever that is on average from the beginning of the year as a kindergartner to the end of the year as a kindergartner. And then the next group of kindergartners did the same thing, and then the next group.
Okay.
So it's 4 years of kindergartners averaged.
Okay, so
So
to
in
show
4
that
years,
it's not just an anomaly in 1 year.
Right, like the anomaly that
Yeah.
we just saw about reading, which we'll see in a minute, wasn't an anomaly, but so at least it gives me an indication that if I see a number, I expect it's gonna improve based on 4 years of history. By every grade. They didn't improve as much.
They can though, that's good. Didn't go down.
No, they didn't go down, I don't know. What happened to the 8th grade?
Well, it's 4 years.
Keep in mind that a lot of times our 8th graders haven't been with us
The whole
since
time.
kindergarten. Right, and so we're dealing with kids who maybe have a lot of our kids in middle school, especially by 8th grade, have transferred in. And so they're coming in with exceptionalities that maybe make learning difficult.
And this doesn't tell you what the starting point was, so they could have come in and they got 80% at the beginning of the year, you know, so you don't know that, but at least they don't.
But at least.
But it could have, so. Anyway, so this helped me out a little bit to say that we're improving, and historically we're improving. And when we see the number in October or November or whatever from the first test, we can keep this in mind. And this is the same data for reading. There's our first grade anomaly that it wasn't just an anomaly for 1 year, but it was the same thing for all 4 years.
Well, it's the same test.
Every one of them went
The
down.
same test all 4
yeah.
years. So
So,
that's why I think there still is an anomaly.
so I appreciate the fact that you're gonna check into that, because that looks really weird.
Yeah.
Well, and you can take that to the testing
That's right.
company and say, look, 1 year, okay, if it was COVID, it was
Yeah.
this, but this is every single year, one grade, it's happening to only one grade students. And they're not the only grade taking your test.
Right. And it's a different group of students each year that the first grade
Yeah.
reported,
And
not
the
right.
kindergartners are taking the same test,
Yes.
so just those two.
Yeah.
The
Right?
kindergartners
And
didn't,
And check.
Well,
But
it would be
you-
a true trend if it wasn't just a testing issue. You'd see them go down year after year. They would never really catch up in reading.
And the rest of them are all going up.
Yeah,
And the fact that Chris is looking at the individuals, you know, what their improvement is, cause I get, you know, all the parents get the copy of their kids' test, or you can see that they're improving in areas, because you get their little report. You know, if it was going down, I'm sure parents would be saying, why is it going down?
Maybe our data analysis is gonna find problems with that. Maybe we're gonna improve testing for all of Mexicans.
They were
RYA.
That's smart kids.
Yeah, cause it does seem to be that one group.
I mean, could we ask AKCS, do you see this?
Yeah.
I mean, even other charters?
and another unfun fact, looking at the data was taking the COVID kindergartners and watching them go. This first, second, third and fourth, and they're always a lot worse than
Yeah.
the people on either side of them. It's disappointing they haven't been able to catch up.
Well, I
4
think
years
that's true
now.
for not only the kindergartners who were the greatest service, but for all the kids. I mean,
Yeah.
I felt like going into whatever grade, it was the fourth grade, it was fourth grade, yeah, fourth grade. And he was woefully behind for fourth grade. And it had nothing to do with the online teaching that he was receiving or anything else. It was just the lack of being within, with the lack of not being in the building.
But it sounds like the data showed that cohort had it the worst. The kindergarten.
And I can't imagine trying to learn as a kindergartner remotely. It's hard enough to learn in kindergarten when you're with your kids. I can see why it's kind of a wasted year, I guess.
Well, there's so much amazing things that this school does from kindergarten to
Yeah,
put in those foundations. that Not available to you when you're online.
so this is an easy thing to just keep going, and if we want, we can do 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, and just keep it going. And see the trends if we want.
I like that.
Well, I'd like to see just a little couple, 2 lines or whatever that shows the historical improvement expected
Okay.
to mid-year and end year when you do that report, if you could.
So who built this, you or him?
Dave did. Can you give me maybe
I have the date, the actual,
like how you would want us, and what information you want me to plug into that line for you? I mean, I'm happy to do that. Something apples to
we'll
apples.
talk about it.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Yeah, I think another committee meeting to figure that out, because I do want apples to apples, you know, and the testing software distills stuff down for us too from the data. When it aggregates, so I just wanna make sure we're comparing apples to apples.
And
Thank
even
you.
you can teach an old dog the new tricks, cause I have to figure out how to make these. The tricks.
That's pretty
I haven't done that in a long time.
Very impressive.
This just makes me so happy. I used to always talk about this council wouldn't be so busy renewing charters, buying a building, all the things we've done where we could focus on this, you know, what actually matters. And it's like, I feel like we're here. Good job, Dave.
Thank you, committee, thank you, Dave.
That's all I wanted.
It's good information, thank you for your report and for doing that work. All right, charter renewal? Do we need to do anything
No,
there?
Aaron.
The charter renewal, okay. Great.
I'm standing up with my back hurt, so just keep going.
So, yeah, as part of the charter, we want to make sure we have a mission vision statement. And so Chris and I were talking about it. And to the best of my recollection, I don't have the most institutional knowledge. It was always something done by the council. But we talked about the importance of having the staff involved in doing it. So at our next strategic planning meeting, we're gonna work on that. But, you know, that's kind of a huge component of our charter bill, but it needs to be like.
I think what we're also looking at tonight is action on who we are choosing to authorize with.
Okay,
Oh,
so
yeah.
we do need to make a vote for that.
Because we had discussion about it, we were prepared to take action last month, but I forgot to put action on the Tuesday.
That's right, I
Yeah.
forgot, sorry.
And, the committee, has looked at it in depth. And we're gonna recommend, or as a whole, that we stay with this. It's pretty fine, if a council, looked at it, you can find a good reason to. It used to be back in the day, but there was at least a rumor that you could be in a better fiscal position with state councils, I'm sure. So, no, the other committee was ever able to come up with these two authorized states.
Right. Well, with that, I will make a motion to accept the committee's recommendation on reviewing an all-King Community Schools charter with Albuquerque Public Schools. And have a second.
Sorry.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. You now have authority to move forward. You now have authority to move forward.
Hold on.
Okay.
You have authority to do the rest of the work.
Yeah, I've already warned in Danielle. You won't see her. You may not see me on days I'm in.
All right, we did new business A, made a culpa once again. We need to move that to next month because I don't have B done. We will get there, I promise. And then, Ms. Pat, I need to know in order to make a motion to certify our continuing ed requirements. Did we all get done this year? Yay!
I did it before June 30th.
Me too,
I was like.
She was like a little ahead.
I was ahead this year. I did it because I knew what was gonna happen and I'd be a
C, new business C.
And I didn't know. 6 hours.
Yeah, I was absent that day. I
They carried it.
It should.
I'm impressed with all of you and your dedication, truly, it's just amazing. I was sitting at the AKCS audit entry meeting and I'm looking around and I'm sitting here with 6 people from Alice King and some schools had 2. And I was just like, this is amazing.
Well,
And
and
the
I-
amount of expertise and professionalism, and I just want to express gratitude to you all, because it's awesome.
Thank you, Ms. Christie. Okay, so then, with Ms. Pat's verification that we all completed our state mandated and required, continuing education training to serve on our board, I will make a motion to certify that the Alice King Community School Governing Council completed its state mandated training. Can I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, you're now certified. Hey, Ms. Christie, you're up.
All right, so I just want to talk about the employee handbook for just a minute, and this actually goes in tandem with T, which is the student family handbook. So what has been happening over the last few years is we changed the date on our handbook, but as we make adjustments to policy, we're making those changes to the handbooks in real time, updating and putting revised versions on our website. So I keep historical record of all of the different handbooks. I should be putting them in the Dropbox probably instead of on my computer now that I say all of this out loud. So I have like last year we had the 24-25 handbook, and then I have that archived, and then we had a revision in October. I have that one, and then that's the one that's currently on our website. Because we're doing that, there's not a lot of changes at the beginning of the year. So I have no changes to the employee handbook or the student family handbook for this year, other than a date change. So that's, yeah, and it does make it easy, right? It's much easier to do it in real time, because years ago, what I would have to do is track all of the changes for the year, make all of the changes in the summer, and then bring that to you with all of the changes. And that was much more challenging to keep track of. So I think the way we're doing it now is it works much better, and everybody has access to the most updated information.
And my recollection of our bylaws is we can approve these, but we don't.
Right.
Yes.
And so, is there anything you did within the past year that you think you need to approve, like us to fix that?
No, because everything comes from you guys.
Come from our past.
I mean, and if there's anything that I would, if there was anything, when I was going through it, if there's ever anything that I feel like needs to be looked at, I would make that change and propose it to you all, and then you could decide if you needed to do an approval or
And I recommend no action.
not. And then Laura, do you want to talk about the employee fiscal responsibility handbook, because that's tied in with all of this as an agenda item as well.
Right, I don't have any changes over the year myself, I went through it. We made that change with the travel one last year, that was really smart, instead of being the rate, we were like, we will follow this, and it, yes, and that was much easier. So.
So no changes.
Okay, wonderful. Then we have nothing to vote on and we can move on to the student family handbook or do we, that was it. They both
Not
voted?
any changes there either at this time.
All right, wonderful. We do have a short closed session tonight because I want to talk to the board about a personnel matter. And I would like all of our staff people to leave for the beginning of the conversation, and then we'll probably have things on the ready.
Right, and we'll pause the recording.
Wait, don't pause yet. I gotta make a motion. Okay.
Just on 7.
Yeah, we're just doing next time. Or no, we're just doing B.
Limited.
Yeah,
Oh,
so I need to make a motion and we gotta vote. So I make a motion to move into closed session for discussion of limited personnel matters pursuant to New Mexico statute annotated 1978 10-15-1H2.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Now you can stop recording. And screening.